E-Man, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Happy to be here.
What a trip.
An old friend, very old friend.
Yeah, you know, it's for the listeners, we actually knew each other in high school. I think we had a couple. Do you remember what classes? It was like English and Spanish maybe or something like that. Do you remember what classes we had?
I don't know. I was a terrible student.
Me too, man. Yeah, we should actually probably talk about that. How we were just absolutely terrible in school, and somehow we're making it. We're surviving. So don't beat your kids up too much, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's just jump in. Go ahead and tell everybody what you do, and we'll start there.
My name is E-Man. I am a professional musician in Los Angeles. Whatever the hell that means.
Yeah. What does it mean, E-Man?
it means you have to do like 10 different things to not be broke all the time.
Okay. Cool.
So, yeah, I mean, I am, I play drums. That is my craft, right? If we break this all down, I've been playing drums since I was a kid. I think I remember being 2 or 3 and playing in church.
Amazing.
So that's my craft, whatever the heck that means. And then, you go to school, you go to high school, you start doing these things where you learn a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then the craft gets better. Eventually you get to a point where it's like, how do you make money doing this? And for me, I was fortunate. I went to Citrus, and they kind of just threw you in the fire, and they had like what's called a working band. So like how do I say this? It's like a wedding band.
Oh, cool.
A wedding band that's the best way to do it.
So people can call and say, hey, I've got an event, I need a band, and you guys are on campus, and it's like a class, maybe like a curriculum or like a...
Correct.
And then you go and you perform and you make money.
Yeah, and so, somebody would... And all that money would go to the school, back into the school, and so the program would kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, sounds very much like college. Yep.
Yeah. And so I did that for a few years, and then once I left that... I got an audition, I moved to Europe for a bit, lived in Europe for a while, came home, was living with my parents in a garage kind of vibe and trying to figure it out. And, along the way you make friends and you make relationships. And a friend I knew from college had become the MD for like a PBS special kind of a thing.
Sorry, became the what?
The musical director, MD, okay. Short.
I've got a film background, man, so you might have to educate me a couple times.
What is MD exist in film background?
No, MD, isn't that like a medical doctor?
I guess you're right, yeah.
You say MD, and that's what my mind jumps to.
Yeah, so we, so he had this, he was working with this artist who had done a PBS special, and the PBS special was going to tour for a bit. It was like a week run or something. It was a really simple run. And I went out with that, and the snowball just kind of happens. Like, you realize what's cool to do on the road, what's not cool to do on the road, how to behave. All the etiquette stuff happens in these really early, nobody really cares about, except for maybe the artist kind of a gig. Mm-hmm. And, you're meeting people along the way, you're making friends, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I've been doing over the last 5 or 6 years is I've been touring with this guy named Andy Grammer.
Oh, haven't heard of him.
Yeah, nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, right.
And I've been touring with him, and I've been his drummer for that long. So that's how I make my money, but along the way, there's been a bunch of other things where I've made great money or shitty money, or can I curse on this? God, that's I didn't want to do that. I'm sorry. I feel like every person drops a f***ing F-bomb and they go, oh, can I curse? It's like, no, just do it. I'm sorry to the listeners. I have a terrible potty mouth.
I'll probably avoid the F-bombs. Everything else is fair game.
Okay, all good. So, you make all these friends. That's a good F word. You make all these friends and you start working. And so, like I said, I've been working with Andy for the last 5 or 6 years, and that's where I am. And along the way, I've done, sessions and studio stuff and other tours and church gigs and wedding bar gigs and bar gigs and every type of gig you can think of, I've done.
And is that just out of necessity, or is that just because you love what you do, or you're just trying to make money?
Yes. I think there's part of me that's like, I grew up really poor, like really poor. And part of me is like, I never want to be poor. Never, ever do I want to be poor. So you kind of do gigs you don't want to do, but at the same time you're doing because you get to play drums. Like I would much rather play at the worst wedding ever and make $75 than ever have to go do a day job. Yeah. That's just how I am.
No, that makes sense. I like that. I'm at the point now too where it's like I think I mentioned this in one of my other episodes. My brother-in-law mentioned, he goes, I don't know, man, that freelance lifestyle just scares the hell out of me. Like, I don't know how you guys live not knowing what's coming up. And I go, well, let me just throw it to you this way. I'm at the point now where one source of income, right, which you're doing, scares the hell out of me. Like, if I only had money coming in from one person, and that person maybe wakes up one morning and decides he doesn't like you anymore, she doesn't like you anymore, like you're completely out of the job. Like your income goes from 100% to 0% in a day. And maybe I've got 20 people on my roster that kind of cycle through, and maybe only one a year contacts me, but if that person gets pissed off and drops out, I've got 19 that are calling, and I can eventually replace that one. You know what I mean? So it's, I am at the point now where the freelance lifestyle is like the only lifestyle. I couldn't possibly imagine having that 9 to 5 with one employer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know how, I don't know how to. I would not function in a normal environment. I barely function in this environment. Right. Like barely. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of musicians, I think, that don't make a living doing what they love. Right. They're kind of just hobbyists, and they are maybe incredibly talented, but they don't really know how to make money. What advice do you have for musicians starting out, if that is something they want to do? Maybe quit that day job. They don't want to code anymore, and they want to, heaven forbid, become a studio drummer.
Well, the irony of all this is that I know people who are coding right now that are musicians, or picking up some sort of like,
side hustle.
Side hustle, or like oh my gosh, I'm going blank, but like
Andy Grammer, right? Andy Grammer codes on the side.
Like the digital marketplace stuff. There's a lot. I know a lot of people that have done that, or things of that. A side hustle is the best way to say it. But my advice would say, if you have a day job and you want to do this for a living, whatever this is, because this is so gray.
Yeah, you musician.
Yeah,
there's so many different outlets, right? That it becomes
absolutely
pretty gray. Yeah,
absolutely. So I would say, what you need to do is take every gig that comes your way. Every terrible wedding gig, every terrible bar gig, every church gig that you don't necessarily align with on a spiritual level. If you
or an
have
artistic level, I see that an enormous amount with my industry, in the film industry. It's like I've met a lot of DPs that starting out that won't take certain gigs because they're above it, or it's not creative or artistic enough for them. And I think that that's a terrible thing to do starting out. I think once you establish yourself, and now you're an established drummer, I think that maybe you could be a little bit more choosy. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but like other DPs or anybody starting out, I love that advice. Just do everything. You're trying to make a living. You can't say no, otherwise you're gonna starve, or you're gonna end up being, coding,
pissed off because it didn't work out for me. It's like, well, it probably did.
Yeah.
And I've definitely shut stuff down where somebody called me and I was like, there's gonna be like one person I don't want to see, but I need like the $100. We're talking a few years ago, and it's like, you know what? Maybe I should have just done it. I don't know who else would have been there.
Yeah.
Who else may have been there. And that's I honestly think like the greatest successes of my life have been because I decided to hang out or do something I didn't want to do.
Same. I had a whole podcast on it just a month or two ago about the power of free. And I can literally trace like almost my entire career back to like 2 free gigs, or like really low paying gigs,
Yeah. Where somebody will buy you lunch or something.
Exactly.
Which also brings another point to me. Yeah. If I'm in the position of hiring somebody, and I can't pay them, I will always like buy them lunch, buy them dinner.
It's the least you can do.
Something. It's the least you can do, even if at the time that's the most you could do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's really important, and people definitely did that for me, so I'm very thankful.
Cool. Well, you're obviously incredibly talented. I mean, I think that goes, it's like, this isn't a how did you become talented podcast. This is a how do you make money being so talented podcast. And I follow you on Instagram, and I'm a drum like person though. I love drums. I'm constantly drumming on my body. Yeah. My wife has threatened to buy me drum pants. I don't know if you've seen those like little MIDI controller drum pants.
Oh my gosh, no, I want to see those.
Yeah, and it's like a nervous tick actually. Anybody on set that works with me knows that when I start drumming, that means that I'm nervous, we're not moving fast enough, and it's like that's just the thing when Lars drums on his body. We gotta move faster.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So I love watching you on Instagram because I just think what you do is really incredible. And
thank you.
But let's break that down a little bit. I'm curious. Do you track for Andy Grammer too, or you just tour?
Yeah. I've been fortunate to record on his last record and his upcoming record. Either at a studio or stuff out of my spot here.
Okay, cool. At your spot too?
Yeah, I have a great studio at my house.
Yeah, so let's start breaking down some of your revenue sources then. All right, so at this current moment, would you kind of break us or walk us through some of your different revenue streams?
Yeah, okay, so in a non-pandemic altering year.
Well, and then we're going to talk about that too.
Yeah. My primary source would be touring with Andy.
Okay.
Where I'm what's called a retainer musician with him. So regardless of how many shows I play with him in a year, regardless of how many tours I do, I would just be paid the same. It's a salary. Think of it as a salary.
Sure.
I work for his company. When they need me, I'm there. I show up, and he has priority. It's that simple. That's number one. Number two would be doing recording sessions for other artists or live shows for other artists. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's at big name studios in LA. Sometimes that's at my no-name studio here in where I live. Mm-hmm. Which I won't disclose the location because I think that's weird when people do that.
Yeah, it's a 565 East. Just kidding. I have no idea. Yeah.
I'm actually not too far from you are.
Yeah,
from where you are. So
that's cool. I like that we both ended up in Glendora again.
Yeah.
Was I not supposed to say that?
Whatever. So it's that's kind of how I make my money, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll do a church gig, or I'll play a live gig somewhere. But, for the last 5 or 6 years, that's been it. Sometimes you get what I like to call the golden egg or the golden nugget, which is you play on a song and it does really well, and suddenly you have royalties coming in.
Yeah.
Or you sing on it. And so I've had a couple things that have gone to a sync, and then I made a ton of money because of that sync.
What's a sync?
A sync is when a song gets used for a commercial, TV, film, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I've sang backgrounds on one thing that did incredibly well, and it got a sync with Apple.
Whoa.
For an iPhone. It was either the 6 or 6S or 7. I don't remember. So for, a few months, that was huge. That was like life-changing kind of money. So
amazing. So talk to me. What do you do with that kind of money? So you have all of a sudden this huge influx of money coming in. Are you reinvesting it in your studio? Or are you trying to buy more assets, things that can then make you more money?
When that happened, that was kind of the very first time I came into like a ton of money. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, I need to do something to protect this money. Mm-hmm. So that went into certain types of savings. I went into purchasing a home. Mm-hmm.
There was life-changing money.
Yeah, that's what happened for me.
Are you comfortable sharing some sort of ballpark over those couple months, or do you have any idea of how much it ended up being?
Honestly, I couldn't even tell you because at some point it got over a number where, and I'm not talking $1 million.
Okay.
And I'm not even talking 500,000. I'm just saying like at some point it got over a number where it's like, I think I'm cool for a while. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've had money come in that way where you're like, could probably like chill for a few months.
I have. Yeah. I did a film for Viacom last year. That was pretty good. I was chill money for a little bit, and then I every once in a while I'll produce a commercial, and that's pretty chill money as well.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think everybody has some form of that, and that's also relative, because if your lifestyle, you require $500,000 a month to live on, your coming into a lot of money is going to be a lot bigger, right?
Yeah.
So. Excuse me.
Cool. So you bought a home in Glendora.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and Glendora's a great place. It's really nice. It's a nice neighborhood. It's a nice place to live.
We grew up here.
Yeah.
For me, I was living in Pasadena before, and the amount of time it would take me to get to the airport, because that's kind of where, LAX is home, second home. Getting to LAX from Pasadena and Glendora at 7 a.m. takes the same amount of time.
Same amount of time. Yeah.
Same amount of time. So
totally agree.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah. Great, man. Well, so is that your biggest investment, you think, your house?
That and some of the audio gear that I have.
Okay, let's talk about the audio gear then. So I want to know how you've been able to build a studio, because recording studios aren't cheap. There's a lot of really specialty gear that goes into it. And if it was worth it for you, if it's more of like a humble brag that you have this stuff, or if it's something that you need to generate more income.
I think at some point when you're recording any sort of music, it's kind of like what they say, like the best camera you have is the one in your pocket, right?
Of course. Yep.
So the best recording situation I would have is what's immediately available to me.
Yeah.
That could be a shitty microphone and I clap and that clap gets sampled and ends up on a number one. That could be it. Right? That's never happened for me. But
yeah. You've probably heard of it happening.
Oh, yeah. I definitely know people who have recorded. One of my favorite stories is an artist I was working for called me and said, "Hey, throw me the kitchen sink. Everything you got." Cool. Took me 3 hours. I sent it back. Another guy got the same call from the producer of that song, and he sent it back in an hour. Who do you think made the record?
The hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not because, well, he is incredible, and he is arguably this generation's greatest studio drummer, like my generation. But what's amazing is that he probably just used one microphone, because I heard the parts made the record, and I had to learn those parts. So I know that he probably used a microphone or two and got it out as soon as possible. He heard what was missing and he found that void and filled it.
Yeah.
So me saying I have good gear is only so I can not have to work as hard. Like if you can have everything in the box or in Logic or Pro Tools, sure, great. I mean, how many times have you had to fix lighting on something?
Oh, you mean every day of my life?
Exactly.
Okay.
So with recording drums, people think like drums are just one instrument. The truth is each individual part is an instrument.
Yeah, you've got like 12 instruments on a set of drums.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you have to blend them all together, and the best way to blend them all together is if they're, recorded well, and there's so much crap that goes into that. And I'm still learning, but having really good gear makes that process way easier.
Yeah.
Just does.
So it's more convenience then for you.
100%.
More than the money making aspect of having a studio, it's more convenient. And I actually think that was my original reason for buying camera equipment. Was that for me, it was just way more convenient to get a last minute call and to not have to scramble to try to find, to someone that I could rent a camera from to go shoot a small gig that I'd maybe make $250 on or $300 on. But the convenience of owning camera gear was, at first anyway, better than the additional money that I was able to make from it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And that's not cheap, right?
No, camera stuff's not cheap, and it just gets more and more expensive. I'm at the point now where it's not so much the case. Like, it is and it isn't. Like, I love the convenience of being able to say, what's the project? That sounds like more of a vintage lens set, and then just like pulling one of my vintage lenses, or that's an anamorphic, and we pull those lenses. So it's like, and I've got those options now, because I've been able to rent all this equipment on projects and actually make money from it. Now I can just be a little bit more creative and kind of, but it's still convenience. Are you kidding?
Yeah, it's 100% convenience and it's speed. How fast can I get this thing done?
Yeah. And the truth is my clients love it too. Like maybe I'm giving them a discount on the camera for some gigs and not on others, and they understand that. And so it's like, but they do know that it's one COI, it's one certificate of insurance, and I bring the lights, I bring the trucks, I bring the camera, and everything's like there. So it's convenient for producers too. And I don't have to worry about like, oh man, my least favorite thing in the entire world was submitting gear lists for like what I needed for my grip and electric with my gaffers and key grips. It was my least favorite thing in the entire world. So that was another reason I ended up investing in lighting gear.
And do you like pay to store it in a special place, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, I park it at. There's a studio lot in Burbank that I park it in. It's 24-hour. It's secure. They've got a guard there, and yeah, it's and then my cameras I park in a rental house in town called Boca.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
So
I know nothing about that world. But, you know, I know that some of my gear is at a place called Mate's Rehearsal Spot.
Cool.
Or Mate's Rehearsal Studio. That's the name of it. And,
nice.
you know, like my big touring cases are there. I don't need to worry about them.
Cool.
Those don't belong anywhere near a house. You know what I mean?
Do you get any kind of kickback or rental from them?
No. Nothing, because they don't get rented out.
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
just storage.
Yeah,
it's just storage. I did that one time where I rented out, you know, some cases to a friend, and it was like $300 or something for like 6 months. Yeah, it's not worth it, and it gets beat up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the difference between your world and our world is for people to really have a good career in your world. They treat everything really nicely, and they're most of the time familiar with what they're grabbing, right? With what they're taking out of a case.
They better
sometimes,
be.
Yeah. Sometimes you go to a place and your drums will literally be thrown in their case or pushed up a set of stairs or.
Yeah,
by people who just are there for 3 hours to make $60.
Yeah,
and that's nothing wrong. That's a gig in their world. That's a gig, and that's great. But
no, that happens in my world too. Like there's people that just, you know, it's like my big lighting truck I won't send out without one of my guys driving it and managing it. And so unfortunately I can't have that luxury with camera stuff. But at the rental house, at least they QC things and take care of things.
Oh, that's
anyway.
Great.
We'll get back to your studio. How much money have you put into building your recording studio?
Let's see. I know this because I went way over budget initially. So I did the thing where you take your garage and convert it.
Okay.
I saved a bunch of labor costs because I did it with my dad and I.
Nice.
I want to say building was like 10 or 15 K, and then audio is at least another 20. Okay,
so you're maybe $35,000 into the studio. Are you charging an hourly rate for the studio services?
There is no set price, and I love that. I started doing a thing a couple years ago where it does two things. One, I never have to talk about money because that's the one thing that nobody ever wants to talk about. And two, it weeds out the people I don't ever want to work with.
Interesting.
My approach,
break that down.
My approach, especially during like this pandemic time. Lars calls me and says, "Hey man, I got your number through somebody, and I need you to play drums on 3 songs." Great man, send them over. That's the conversation.
Yeah.
I never expect you to pay me any money. I want you to. But if you come at me and you go, I got like $25 for 3 songs. I'm still like, yeah, I can't do that.
Okay. Yeah.
If you end up paying me $25 for playing on 3 songs, I know you don't value what I do, and I'll never work with you again.
That's fascinating. That's a little scary though, isn't it? Going into gigs?
No. It's so freeing because you're not dependent on the money. You're not obviously I want it. I want you to pay me $600 or $700 a song. But I know that you might not be able to do that. And for you, some artists might have $100 and they know this is it. That's all they have. I don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, I can't make your dream come true because you can't afford my $700 per song rate.
But maybe they will eventually. Maybe one day they'll remember it and go, you know what? Eman's drums were incredible on that track. We should definitely, now that we have some money, go back to Eman.
Exactly. And what ends up happening a lot of the times is like I work with this artist, I won't name her, and we never have talked about money. Never. But every once in a while she'll just Venmo me a few $100, and it's great. It's awesome.
See, I can't do that. Oh, sorry, I bumped my mic. I was so flustered by what you're telling me right now. I bumped my mic. No, but I have to, like, dude, it's like the Clint Eastwood standoff. Anytime the first thing they do when they call me, it's like, what's your budget? Like, what's your rate? What's your budget? What's your rate? You know what I mean? It's like that's like the very first question. I know that's true for me and probably just about everybody else that I work with right now.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I can think of a situation. I'm not going to name any artists, but there's an artist I had been working with, and I had done some work with him live, and I knew what he was paying me live. Great. I went into the studio to go record some stuff for him, and I not once brought money up.
You were just maybe expecting the same live rate.
Yeah, like that seems like a fair expectation. Mm-hmm. They paid me 5 times more.
Wow.
So, like, it worked out great. And then there's been other times where, you know, you play on a song for somebody, or you play, you know, you do something and you're doing them a favor, and you know you're doing them a favor, and they don't pay you anything. Mm-hmm. And they just walked away with this gift. Mm-hmm. Well, my drums are still going to end up on that record. Yeah. Somebody's going to hear it. Somebody else is going to say, like, oh, that shit's dope. Mm-hmm. I want that guy. They're going to see your name
eventually.
Yeah. And then the best part about all this is when that person has to go, like, what did he charge you? The psychological, emotional...
Probably not.
...thing that person has to go through at that moment is going to pay more than any amount of money.
Nah, that guy's going, get this. You're not going to believe this. He was free. I didn't pay him anything.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that's what happens. And then that other person will come up to me and they'll ask me, can you play on the song? It's like, yeah. And can I pay you what the last person paid me? So like, you know what? They didn't pay me anything, but if you have money, great. If you don't, great. That's how I approach everything now.
So that's not the industry standard, I would assume.
No.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, I'm assuming
I don't care about the industry.
Yeah, okay. All right, interesting.
Spotify exists.
Yeah, so are you just banking on the fact that you're going to be doing tours and you're going to make a lot of money doing or studio tracking, or is it just
I'm not banking on anything. Wow. I'm just banking on, like, I want to be a good hang. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't like this. Yeah. Like, I this is very recent for me.
Yeah. This is all because of that life-changing money that came in a couple years ago, and now you're set for life.
That was almost 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, man, you're right.
So it's like, for me now, it's like, this is the easiest way to work with who I want to work with.
Yeah.
And I don't ever have to think about it. I don't. I just played on 4 songs for some dudes that I know from when I was a kid. Didn't talk about money once. The singer sent me a few $100 and the guitar player sent me a few $100.
Cool.
Great. Awesome. I don't care. Like, in this industry, like, I think I've definitely been this person before. Like, I won't do it for that money. It's like, well, I should just do it. I'm going to learn something along the way.
That's fascinating. And I don't think that I necessarily agree with that method.
No, that's fine. And maybe in a year or in 5 years, I'll be bumming it on the streets. We don't know.
No, probably not. You're too talented to be doing that.
But I do know that since I started doing this, the way I perform on somebody's song is the purest it can be.
So what's the future then? So are we just going to continue just tracking until we're or you know, are we doing only Andy Grammer right now when he's doing going on tour? Are we doing hopefully getting on more people's tours? Like, what's the plan for the future?
I mean, as far as I know, I have some stuff coming up with Andy. in the summer and in the fall. Not tours, but fly dates. That's you go for a weekend or two. Some of that, and then just recording from home.
Cool.
That's it.
Wow.
And it's been so like freeing to not really have to care. And that's not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not making crazy amounts of money even when I do that. It's like I make a decent living.
Yeah.
But taking money out of it has been the best thing possible, and I feel that the return has been better.
Wow. Do you think you're a better performer because of it?
100%. When I play on somebody's song and I don't have to think about how much time should I spend on this? They're only paying me $75.
Wow.
They're only paying me $400. They're only paying me $1,000. It's like, why should I treat the person who's paying me $1,000 any better than the person who's paying me $75?
Yeah, you technically shouldn't, right?
You shouldn't. And for me, it's hard not to separate those. But when I take the money out of the equation, it's really easy to never separate those.
Just be the best.
Just be the best always. And some people can be like, well, I'll give my 100% because they're paying me $75 and they're paying me $1,000. I can't do that. I just can't. It's not how I'm wired.
Yeah.
The money takes over.
Wow. So I would assume that no, this is great. I actually love it. I feel like I'm learning stuff here too. I'm like, wait, so money isn't the answer to everything? Hold on. Unraveling.
You know what? Money isn't the answer, but money is the problem fixer.
It is.
So that's I guess the best way I think.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: if you didn't have your studio set up by 2020, what would that year have looked like?
Oh, I probably would be working at Amazon or something.
Coding.
I'm serious. Yeah. No, I can't even code. I'm too stupid to do that. I can barely count to 4. I mean, it's like...
I know you can count to 8. I know you can at least do that. I've seen it on your Instagram.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would be working some sort of job that I hated.
Wow. So
thinking about how little amount of money they're paying me for the amount of work I'd be doing.
Yeah. So 2020 is what's the saying? Hindsight is 2020. There you go. Talk to me about the importance then for other musicians to have some sort of safety net or other streams of income and not just being relying on one thing like live gigs.
Oh yeah, I mean, I saw it happen. A lot of dudes at the, come April last year, they're like, oh, we're going to be shut down for a while.
Yeah.
And I saw them go on Sweetwater and buy, $5,000 worth of stuff. And if I was in that position, I wouldn't have done that. I would have saved the money because I knew this thing was going to be at least a year long.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you have done that then? Because weren't they making an effort to be able to track from home?
Because then the market gets saturated. And unless you're the guy that plays with the biggest pop star on earth, nobody wants you on their songs. When they can hire the other guy who'll cost $300, or the other guy that costs $75, or the jerk who doesn't charge you anything and
never thinks about
you're
money.
Gonna pay him what he's worth, right? Yeah. But all that being said, I think I don't know. I don't know what shitty job I'd be doing. You know what I mean?
So moving forward, did that give you any inspiration or any insight into different income streams in the future? Are you maybe looking at composing or anything like that in the field, or maybe tracking other bands coming in or other artists?
I mean, I've definitely, I had friends who didn't have a place to record, and I was like, hey, why don't we just split the thing down the middle? Whatever they're paying you, let's split it down the middle. I'll record you. I'll take care of all the crap that you have to do. Like when you record, okay, this is my favorite part. And if you ever hire somebody to record something for you, that's like a single musician, right? Mm-hmm. So if you hired me to play drums on your song, it's something you guys should keep in mind. I'm playing drums, having to set up the correct drums, having to put mics on the drums to capture that, engineer the session, produce myself, take your advice or take your input, do it again, probably, export everything, upload everything. That's usually what it takes.
Yeah, so that's like 7 jobs.
That's 7 jobs.
You're like probably $1,000, $1,500 an hour. Is what I'm gathering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I wish.
Yeah. Right.
So what I'm getting at is that you have to just kind of keep that in mind when you hire people, and that will. Is this even answering the question? I'm sorry. I think I went on a tangent.
No, it's okay. I was just asking, like, what are you looking in the future? Are you looking at
yeah. So what I was getting to was, like, I'm already doing that. I'm already helping people who don't have this setup come in. They can record drums. They can record guitars, record string sections, record, whatever.
Yeah.
I can do that. Also, what I've been doing is a lot of times I work for this company called Splice right now, and that's kind of been a great thing that happened in the last year, where I basically make drum loops for them. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's like close to 1,000 that you could probably download right now.
And what's that kind of revenue? So ideally, someone says, I just need some loops right now, or just like they're trying to create a beat and they just find some loops, and how much do they download it for? And I'm assuming it's like a 50-50 split.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know the percentages I make off of whatever amount of downloads it would be, and I don't think I can share that legally, but because there's so many creators that have different arrangements. But what I make is fine, and I got an advance, so the advance is fine, and it's like yeah, it's chill. It's fine. Whatever. Like,
man, should I be worried? Are you okay?
Yeah, man, it's cool. No, yeah, I am fine. Like,
that's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it's like even if I have no money, I can take every piece that I have in this studio and sell it for the same or more than what I paid for.
Yeah, but then you really don't have any money. And it's like that. I
exactly.
I have that problem too, right? Where
but
it's
that's
like,
what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like, that's the absolute worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
That's like,
it's like sell everything and go work for Amazon. Worst case scenario.
Yeah, I could sell this house for almost 3 times what I paid for it.
Yikes. That's awesome. That's an investment right there.
Right.
Man.
So like that's always in the back of my mind too. Like, I have this other safety net that has nothing to do with actual physical money. Mm-hmm. It's just this stupid building that somebody thinks is worth something. Uh-huh. And this is like a very, like, I guess, hippie way. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking here?
Crazy. Crazy.
I guess.
Is the word.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, because of the way I grew up, I know what it's like to have nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm every day constantly thankful for every little bit that I do have. And so I've seen people be generous with me, and I want to be generous with others.
That's awesome.
And that's not who I was even 2 years ago.
But
incredible. Now I am.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
That's really fantastic. Well, I think that's probably a marker of success, honestly.
Hey, maybe.
Or just stupidity. No, I'm just kidding.
No, maybe it is. And you know what?
No, but I'm completely joking when I say that, because I do the same thing. Because there are people that I know that I've worked with in the past that have paid me very generously, that when the phone rings, it doesn't matter how much they're paying me. I know I'm going to take the job.
It's for the hang.
I just go, exactly right. It's for the hang. I like you. Yeah. You've paid me well in the past. I don't really care what you have on this project. We're going.
Yep.
We're doing it.
Yeah, if Andy called me right now and said, like, dude, I need you to play on 15 songs for free. Sure.
Yeah, you got it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You got it. Whatever
absolutely. That's really cool, man. Musicians and creatives don't have benefits. We don't have insurance. We don't have 401ks. What are you doing for retirement? Do you have that in mind yet?
Yeah, so you got to at least have an IRA. Mm-hmm. I mean, some form of that.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate. Like I said, I do have a salary job.
And that pays you benefits.
That pays me benefits.
Incredible. That's the best of both worlds right there.
It is. And, my partner also has a job where, the medical is taken care of and stuff like that. So Yeah, it's, one way or another, it's got to get paid. And, as far as medical stuff, for the longest time, I was just paying out of pocket, and it's expensive. It is. And I've never been to the doctor since. At least give me like a messed up toenail or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just tore my rotator cuff. I don't know if I told you.
No way.
Yeah, well, it's a partial tear. Mountain biking like 3-4 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been a nightmare, dude. Trying to cause I went to first of all, it's like you have to wait 2 weeks before you can see your doctor, and then he's like, yeah, it's probably a tear. We can't do anything about it. We can't give you an MRI or an X-ray. You have to go across the hall to get an X-ray, and that's another copay and another insurance thing. And then you go see a sports doctor because they can't do anything, and the sports doctor goes, yeah, it's probably a partial tear. We don't have an MRI machine, but I can ask your insurance to. And it's like, why?
Oh my gosh.
Why is my doctor asking permission from my insurer to get an MRI when he would like to have an MRI?
Oh my gosh.
First of all, it's the third doctor. It's like the whole thing is a giant mess, but that's not what this podcast is about.
No. I mean, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
Yeah, right.
So that's that. At the end of the day, that's that.
Yeah.
But dude, sorry to hear about that. That's lame.
It's lame.
That's really
good
lame.
news is the third doctor I saw finally gave me a cortisone shot, and
that'll
it's
help.
and so now I'm able to it's like I'd say probably 80% of the pain is gone, and he doesn't think it's a full tear because I actually can lift my arm.
Yeah,
which is good news. So anyway, it's a work in progress. The worst part about it is I can't go mountain biking right now.
Oh no! And we live close to some dope spots for that.
We really do.
So,
now we can bring it back. I do want to thank you for your time. I know you got to be somewhere, so I'll let you hit the road.
We can. Yeah, I think we're okay for another 5-10 if you really want to.
Cool. So the SEP IRA or Roth IRA, do you have both or just one?
Just right now, it's just the IRA, and then I have a 401k.
Oh, through your partner's
salary.
Oh, the salary. That's right.
The salary gig.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's very cool. And then I do think the audio equipment I do have, that's an investment. I really do think so, because it is worth it. This doesn't really lose value.
No, it doesn't.
This
Maybe
stuff
a little bit, No. I guess if you're getting that high end stuff, like the audio interface, you have AU interfaces and
the hardware preamps and the hardware EQs that I have, those new maybe cost $100 more, but often the older stuff is more sought out because it's broken in.
Yep, so, totally. That's awesome.
That's just another fun part about it. Now you have to maintain it, and that's annoying. But so that's to me, that's why I did it. It's a friggin' investment, and I have a bunch of drums, that are worth something.
Yeah,
somebody would always pay for it.
It is your entire career. I hope that your drums are worth a little something.
Yeah, I mean it's no single vintage lens cost.
You're starting to post more online on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. Is there an end goal to that? Are you trying to eventually just get more clients because of it, or are you trying to eventually build an audience that you can instruct and maybe sell something to?
There aren't a ton of guys and gals that actively tour or actively record that are posting things as much as they should be. If you were playing on number one hit songs, you probably don't have the time to post and record and do all this stuff, and it might be
maybe it's not even so much the time, it's the why would I aspect. You know what I mean? I'm on number one songs. Why would I stoop to YouTube videos?
Here's why.
Yeah.
I don't think it's stooping. I think it's I think it would only help people who are gonna take your gig eventually.
Why do I want to help them?
Because at some point, here's why. Because at some point when you aren't that, you'll still have the gratification of knowing that you help somebody else out.
Well, hopefully by then you are doing the number one stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully you scale and you grow and you just get better.
Yeah. Of course, there's all that. But for me, I started I have this facility, this studio, where it's if I record on something, it literally takes me no thought, none, to put a stupid memory card in my Sony A7 III, hit record, and have Final Cut sync it for me. That takes no thought.
Yeah.
That's just me being lazy at that point. Right? Like, I thought about this. I was like,
why am I not doing this?
Yeah, why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
It takes no thought. And
yeah, we just had Christo on the podcast last week, and his one piece of advice for young creatives starting out would be to document everything, whether it's a journal or a YouTube or a podcast or something like that. Just because it's going to be more beneficial for you in the future, but you might help some people along the way.
You might, and you know, I can be pretty sarcastic, and I think people like watching that. So you know, if I have 100 views on something, that's 100 people who know another 100 people who know another 100 people who know another 100 people.
I think about that too. Yeah, because I get like, you know, each podcast when it comes out the first week gets a little over 200 listens right now, and it's like it's a grind. It's not like as many as I want right now, but then I have to remember 200 is a crowd, man, and it's
200
like
is a crowd.
Like if you have, you know, an audience of 200, like I'm sure you've played shows with 200 people and it was a riot.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I have to remember. But yeah, I think we're over 5,000 downloads now in 3 months.
Man. And you just started this.
Just started 3 months ago.
Yeah.
4 months. 4 months. Yeah, 4 months ago. So
great.
Yeah, I'm stoked on it. And
well, this one's easily gonna get like 25.
Yeah, 25 listens probably. Yeah. Drums. I don't drum. Why would I listen to that? No, I think it's gonna do really well. Well, thank you, man. We should definitely hang out. We live in the same city, and I ran into you at Home Depot the other day, which is pretty cool. Yes. I mean,
Home Depot is like my third home.
Oh,
you know,
dude,
it's like
tell me
my
about
house, LAX, and Home Depot.
Absolutely. So, but let's